All right. Welcome to another class on Angular, and this is going to be our first recording video. So as you can see on your screen today, I'll be talking about control flows in Angular. So control flows in Angular. What is control flows in Angular? So we can use, or let me say it in general, when you're working with your page, it's not all the elements that you want to showcase on the screen every time. Sometimes you only want to show a particular element when a certain condition is met. For example, if the user is logging, you are going to display welcome. Your username is so. And if the if the user is not logged in, then you are going to tell them that welcome. Then you need to log in before you can do anything on the system. Like that. And yes, so on my screen here, we have two ways of dealing with um, control flow in Angular. We have the conditional one. So let me go to my UI. So in Angular, when you're talking about the control flows, it's divided into two. We have the conditional and we have the loop. So when you're talking about the conditional, this one means that you are checking whether something is true or false. So if it is true, you want to do something on the page, and if it is not, you want to do another thing with the element you want to display on the screen. But when I'm talking about the loops, which are going to see the sample for them soon, this one allows you to render multiple elements on the screen as long the condition is still true. So loop, it just means you are running the same thing again and again and again until the condition is false. So this one allows you to do it multiple times. This one only allows you to do it once. So with conditional that you're going to be seeing soon, when the condition is met, do this, but if it's not met, do another thing. But with the loop, if the condition is met, keep doing that stuff as long the condition is still true. So the only time you stop is when the condition is not true there like that. And as you can see, I've already rebranded this our code base. Before, everything was inside components and we are interacting with the app directly. So I've separated them here. So lesson one, you are going to see all the stuff that we've talked about under it connected to this first component. So if you want to use that, if you want to see everything we've talked about before, just activate this lesson one and it's going to show everything, because under lesson one, that's where you're going to see the first component and this app layout being used there. So for this class, I'm going to be using lesson 2 so that everything is clean and we are focusing on a particular stuff, which is a control flow there. Now, what am I trying to do right now? So what I'm trying to do is that I have a variable. So imagine in my TS files, I have this variable, which is this is login. And on the page, which is inside this lesson 2, I want to be able to show a particular element based on whether this thing is true or false. So how can we do it in Angular? So the way we can do it is to use the control structure. And when you want to use control structure under the conditional statement, we have the old way there, which is something I'm explained before, like ngIf and so forth like that. And again, we have the new way, which is something you are going to be using at if here, but I'm not going to be typing it because this thing would think I'm trying to use it at that place. So I'm just going to remove it like this. So when you're talking about this old way, so what we want to do, we want to display a particular element. And in order for it to work, so what we need to do is to have something like this. So in this old way, in order for you to use it, you are going to be using what we call this structural directive. This is part of what I'm going to be talking about in the next class here, when we're talking about directive. So our next class is going to be about directive. But for now, just know that this asterisk, anytime you see it, it's known as structural directory. So it allows Angular, you are talking to Angular, that it should be able to remove element on the page or add element on the page. And that's what this ngIf is there for. So what ngIf is there for is that whatever condition you pass into it, if it is true, Angular is going to show this your element. But if it is not true, then Angular is going to remove the element on the screen. So if you look at this is login now that we have from here, you see that the value is true. So saving this entire code and going to the page, you are going to see that I'm not seeing anything. Why? Is because this stuff is not imported yet, and that's one thing of this old way, and that's the reason why I'm not going to be using it again, because first of all, it is duplicated. As you can see, there's a warning there that we should not be using this. But if you still want to use it, so you have to tell Angular that you want to use it. And in order for you to use it, there are two ways that you can use it. So you can import ngIf like this from Angular common there, like that. It has to come from this common. But if you look at it, it's already telling us that it is duplicated. So you shouldn't be using this, like you should not be using this thing with new Angular. Another way of importing it, if you want to import other one too, because there's some other one I'm going to be explaining. So you can import these common modules. So common modules, it includes all the common modules that we have in Angular. One of them is this ngIf. Another one is the ngSwitch, and a lot of them that we have here. As you can see, we have ngIf, we have ngFor that we're going to be using for loop, and we have ngSwitch, which is another condition again there, which works like this ngIf, but it gives you more options there like that. So if you want to use any one of them without importing them one by one, you can just import these common modules and it will include all of them out of the box. So saving this and go back to the screen, as you can see now, I have this text, which is this welcome back. In order for us to see this thing clearly, so let me just put some styling on this thing. So P5, so BG is going to be red. Let me just use 200 like this, and let me paste everything again. So save it, go to the page. Now we have enough space, and inside this each box, let me give a space. So flex scroll and gap 8, so that I have enough space in between each item like this, the way I want it to be. So it's not about the space that I have here, it's about the space that you put on the page. So let me format everything clearly, and you see that we have this. But in order for us to see it and so we differentiate it from the other elements on the page, what I'm going to do here is to, what's my code? So what I'm going to do here is to just put a class there, which is going to have a bg blue 500 like this, so text white, so that it show the text as white. And I've go to the page, as you can see, this is our element. So this is conditional here. So this is what we call conditional flow. So what this one doing is that anytime this thing is true, so anytime whatever you put here can be variable, or you can have it there directly, you can put true, or you can say 3 is greater than 5. Whatever condition you are putting here, as long as that condition is true, then Angular is going to show this our element. Let me disable this AI, it's just disturbing me. Let me snooze because too much. So anytime you have your condition here, if the condition is true, you are going to see the element. But right now, as you can see, the element is not showing again. So element is not logged on the page. Why? Because this condition is not true, because there is always 3 will be greater than 5. But now if I change it to 5 greater than 3 and go back to the screen, as you can see, the element is coming out there like that. So this allows us to condition our elements based on some certain criteria that you want to follow. So here now, if is logged in, which is a variable that we define inside the TS file there. So if it is true, you see that it's still showing. But now if I go back into the TS file and I set it to false, you'll see that it's not going to show on the screen. So when you want to hide element, you don't need to be doing a lot of work yourself. You can use this ngIf to show the element. But this is old way, which is something I don't like to use there like that. So what if you want to show another element when nothing is on the page? So we can just duplicate the element. So I'm going to change the background. This is going to be green 500 like that. What we're just going to do is to just tell them that you are not logged in. So for example, here I will just say you are not logged in like that. So what do we need to do? We need to just negate, because it's only when it's not logging there that is going to show. And once I save this in and go to the screen, as you can see, you are not logged in is what is going to show when the variable here is false. And when it is true, then the second one will not show. What we are going to see there is this welcome back. So if the condition is true, the only time you are going to see this element is when this thing is true, and the only time it will be true is when this one is not. So since I've negated, so the only thing I'm looking for is when it is false. That's the only time I want to show this one, and when it is not false, that's the only time I want to show this one. But this is old way. I don't really like to use this method at all. So we have a better way of handling it. So instead of using this edging if, as you can see, it's complaining already that we are not supposed to be using it because it has been duplicated. There's a new way. So in order for us to use the new way, we are going to be using this at if. So inside this place is where you are going to place your condition, just like that, ng if. Then inside the curly brace, that's where you are going to place the element you want to show. So let me just duplicate it, move it down here like this. So that's our condition now. What we need to do is now to remove it from here and we place it at this side. So that's what we are changing. So what you are doing is the same element is this there. So this ng if will be removed. The only thing you just have is the element like this. So once I save it and go back to the screen, you see that under new way we are seeing it too. So these are the two ways. So you can do it in this way, which you can see in our code base later on, because there is a project that we worked on that, you know, it was started before the new Angular there like that. So you might still see this ng if there, but most of the recent code they are going to be seeing it follow this pattern where you pass this your condition here, and whatever you want Angular to show for you when the condition is true, you are going to place it under the curly brace. It doesn't need to be one item, it can be multiple items. So whatever you have under the curly brace, it's going to show all of them on the screen like this. As long as those stuff are under here, they are going to show. But if it is false, which means your condition is false, and you go to the page, anything under that curly brace are not going to come outside at all like that. And for this one, if you want to do it, Angular actually make it easier for us. So what we can do is to use at s like this, or you create another if for that one too. So here, if not is logged in. So what do we want to do? What we want to do is that we want to display this second items. Yeah, so I'm going to move it down like this. So what do we need to do? Remove this ng if part because we don't need it again. So what I just need to do here is to remove this one, then format my code and save everything so that it gets to the page, not like this, not this save. So save everything, and by the time we get to the page, as you can see, it's showing down here too, because we are not logged in. So as from this moment on, I'm not going to be using this method because it is old and it is duplicated, and you shouldn't be using it in new Angular project there. If it is old Angular project, you can still be using it there. So because when you're using Angular 16, 15 and so forth downward, even though we are not using it right now in our project, we have 17 upward. So if you're using 16 downward, this is the method you're always going to be using, ng if. But if you are using your Angular 17 and above, this is the method you should always go with. So whatever you put in the curly brace, it's going to display all of them as long as this condition is true there. So the same thing here too, since I negate it, is only when it is true that is going to be showing outside. No, this is what it's doing there. So when you say not true, there like that. So when you say not true, what you're going to see is false, and when you say not false, that's where you're going to get true. And that's the reason why this one is true, because it is false here. So when I say not false, that means here what is going to see is true, and since it's true, that's why it is showing this one out there like that. So because I've negate the result, this is just JavaScript, pure JavaScript there. So we have this negation operator there that you can use with your boolean. So if you have it with false, the result you are going to get is always give you the opposite of wherever you put it. So if you put it beside false, you get true, and if you put it beside true, you are going to get false there. So that's just plain JavaScript code. It's not related to Angular. Whatever condition you are doing here is all about your normal JavaScript or TypeScript that you know already, but this if is related to Angular. This is how we do it in Angular there when you want to use this ng if, which is the old way, and when you want to do it in new way, we have this. So the old way, which is what you are going to be using ng if, and the new way you are going to be using this. But if the condition you are working with, this if, it will make it easier for us to work with. So if the condition you are working, maybe when the condition is true, do something. When the condition is not true, you can actually use the else directly instead of you doing negation. So with this, I will just move the UI up there. So moving the UI up, then comment this one out, you see that we are still going to get the same result. And this will make it easier for us, because what this thing will do, what Angular will do is that it will check this your condition. If it is true, it will do everything that you have here and skip what you have under the S, which is just your normal JavaScript. It follows the same JavaScript code there like that. So anything under the S will not run if your condition is true, and anything under this side here too will not run if your condition is false like that. So don't do anything for me. So it will only run. So it will only run. Let me add a comment. Run if the condition. So if the condition is true, and for this one is going to be this. So run if the condition is false. So which condition? Is whatever condition you put inside this bracket. You can see there is no condition here. So the is depending on the condition you put here. So which means if this one is true, it will never show anything from here at all. So if they are depending on each other, this is how you are going to be doing it. But if they are not depending on each other, you are going to use separate if, because they are not correlating with each other. And as you can see right now, what we are saying is you are not logged in because the condition is false. And since the condition is false, then it will show what we have here and skip everything at this side. The same thing here too. You can display multiple items. It's not just one. It can be multiple items. So as long as it is inside the bracket, it will always use them as the S part. Anything outside of the bracket, they are not part of it. So anything outside of the bracket, whether outside here or before here, they are not part of the condition. Those one will always show whether the condition is true or not, because it's not part of it like that. So you can always put multiple elements inside the bracket. So I'm going to comment them out because I don't want to see multiple items, and from here I'm going to change it to true. And this is how you can work with the control flow using the conditional statement. So for the conditional statement, you only want to do something whether that thing is true or false, based on whether that thing is true or false. So if the user is logged in, tell them they are logged in. If they are not logged in, then show another UI for them on the screen. There's still other way of handling this, which is by using the ng switch. So ng switch allows you to kind of switch in between different UI based on some common value that you already know. Based on some common value that you already know. For example, here, assuming we have a status, maybe we are dealing with a document, we want to show a document design, or we want to show a UI to the user on this page based on the status of the document. So if the status of the document is in its back again, let me disable it again because it will just be forward to forward. So based on this status now, as you can see, the status can be active, it can be pending, and it can be banned. So, and we know that when the status is active, there's a UI we need to show on the screen. When the status is pending, there's a UI we need to show. And when the status is banned, there's a UI to show. As you can see here, this can assume different value. It's not like the Boolean that is just true and false. So if you want to work with this one now, using this if, what you have to be doing is to be doing something like this. So at if, so you are going to do like this. So if status, so you are checking if it is active. So if it is active like this, active, I can't type again. You want to do something. So here, do something, which is going to be maybe just p tag. We are just going to say your status is active. So your status is active. So now, as you can see, this one you can't just come here and say S. This one will not work because, as you can see, we see have pending and banned. It's not like the Boolean that is only true and false. They are checking between true and false. But here, it's more than 2 value. It is 3 values or 4 value, 5 value, depending on the number of status you have. So just it's not just active and others. It is active, pending, or banned. So if you want to do it now, you need to be able to switch in between each status. And that's where the switch comes in added. But without the switch, there is a way of doing it directly with this. So if you want to do it directly like this, so what you have to do is you have to do s, so s if like this. So here now you are asking for another condition. So we are going to have status a equals to this pending. I'm doing the new way now by using if before we get to switch. So if you want to do it in this way, because this way you can always go with this without going with the switch, it will still work like that. So what I want to do here is going to be your status, or we can just say the status of your order is still pending. So this is message we want to show, and for here what we just do here, the status of your order is active and ready for dispatch. So this is the message you want to show. Then for the last one, so again this one, and since you know there is no others one, you can use s here directly, but there is going to be a problem later on if there are some other one being added. So instead of you doing that, what you can do here is to do s if again, so that you be on the safer side. So if status now is banned like this, so which means if the value is equals to this, what do you want to do? So your order has been cancelled due to fraudulent activities like this. Why I say highlighting my fraudulent, so where's my spelling suggestion? So activities like that. So save, and save the other one too, and go back to the screen. And as you can see now, I have this status of your order is active and ready for dispatch. What happened here is that we are checking status. So what it will do is that it will check, is the status equals to active? So if it is active, it will do everything we have here and skip every other one. This is Java, is using JavaScript knowledge. You must have JavaScript knowledge here. So the same thing that you used to do in your normal JavaScript code or TypeScript is the same thing that is doing here. Just that this is how we represent it in Angular. So if the condition is, that means if the status is active, do all this, then skip everything. It's only one that is going to happen here. And the one that will happen is the first one that it can find that is active. So down here now, if I want it to be pending, so I just need to change it to pending as the status. And once I go to the page, you see now the status of your order is still pending, because it check, is the status active, you see that the condition is not true. So since the condition is not true, it will skip this part and it will go to the next one and check the condition. So you check again, is the status equals to pending? Yeah. So since it's pending, then it's going to show what we have on line 30 to the user on the screen there like that. So if it is active, this is what it will do, then skip the remaining one. As you can see, they are connected together. I did not use if, because if I'm using if on a separate line and it can go with any one of them, it will cause a problem that you don't want. So if the conditions are attached together and the value can be multiple, what you are going to be doing is if, else if until you are done with all the condition you are checking. So if it is active, do this. If it is not, do this. If it is not, then go to the last one there. And if I want to check the last one too, I just need to change the value to banned. And once I go to the page, as you can see, you see that we have your order has been cancelled due to fraudulent activities. But what if I use a value that is not there? But what if I use a value that is not there? Then nothing will show. So for example, I just use unknown like this. So if I use unknown, you are not going to see anything on the page, because it check, is the status active? No, it skip it. Is the status pending? No, it skip it. Is the status banned? No, it skip it. And as you can see, no other condition again. So if you want to show something else, if none of them is matching, you can always resolve back to your S. So which means it has already checked all this one and none of them is matching. So what we just want to do here is sorry, unknown order here like that. So which means when we are checking, if we get your status and we cross check it against all this one, if none of them is matching, that means you are trying to order something that we don't know about, or we cannot show you the status because we don't know the status that you are dealing with at that moment. And as you can see here now, I have sorry, unknown order. So this how you can do it, but this is This method that we have here now, it can be done in another way by using the switch statement. So instead, what we have been talking about is just the conditional one, and under the conditional one, we have the if. So everything I've been talking about is just if and else if that we have here. But what if you want to use the switch? So what if you want to use the switch? Switch is really useful when you are doing something like this and you know all the value. So instead of you doing it in this way, we can use the switch method. So how do we use the switch method? So in the old way, so when you're dealing with switch, so when you're dealing with Angular switch, so let me just put all this in at the top. So we have the old way, if and else like this. So I'll put it in that way. So new way, so this is going to be if and else, that's the method. So down here too, like that. So we can now have, so h2, this is going to be old way. So old way, this is going to be the switch. So it's just one. So how do you represent the switch? So this is how we represent it. As you can see now, this one too, it's making it it's on putting a line. So which means it's duplicated. Don't use it. Is the new way that will be showing soon that you'll be using. So this is how we do it. So what do we have? So we have this binding. So we are binding into this ng switch. I've talked about property binding. So we are binding. Now anytime you see square bracket there, it means this thing is binding to a TypeScript file. So which means it's binding to this status. It's going to interpret the value that we have there. This is another structural. So anytime you have asterisk, it means this thing will either show on the screen or not, based on the condition that you have in front of it. And what do we have here? So this switch case now, so you are going to create cases for each one of your status or each one of the value that you know that this thing can have there. So it can be unknown, it can be active, it can be pending, and it can be banned. And what do you want to show for each one of them? So here we have P. So when it is active, that means when the value of this status is active, we want to show user is active. But when the value is pending, we want to show user is pending. And when it is another value that we don't know about, so this default. So which if there is any other one, so you can think of this default as this S that we have here. So which means we are going to show unknown status. And once I save this one now, go to the screen, you'll see that I still have the same thing. So here we have unknown status here because the value is unknown. It can be anything else. As long the value is not matching active or pending, you see that on the screen, what is going to show is unknown. Even if I use ban, because I'm not checking that at this place. So if I use ban too and go to the screen, as you can see, it is unknown status. So if I want to check for the ban, I just need to duplicate this my switch down here, then look for when it is banned. So when the value is banned, what we just said is that user is banned. And once I save it, go to the screen, as you can see now, when it is banned, the UI is going to show is banned. This thing doesn't need to be one element like this. It can be multiple stuff. It's not just P. You can show another component, show multiple components when it is this particular value. But in Angular, we only show this P if the value of status is active. Angular will only show this one if the value of this status is pending. And Angular will only show this one if the value of status is pending. And if none of them is matching, then Angular will now show this one. As you can see that this unknown is not showing on the screen. The only time it need to show is when the value of this status did not match all the cases that we are checking here. But if you match any of the case, then it's going to pick the one that we are checking for the cases. And here now, if I go to unknown or any text that is there that is different from what I'm listening for, you see that what I'm going to get here is just this unknown status. But this is old way. This is old way of doing it. So to do it the same thing in new way there like that, it's quite easy. So what we just do is add switch. So this is how we do it in new way. So you pass it, and as you can see, so it matches. So for the switch that we have at the top here, you convert it to this at, then you pass the status just like this, our at if that we have at the top. Then for all these ng switch cases, then they are going to be at case. Then inside it, you are going to pass the value you are looking for. So if the status now is active, this is the only thing it will do. If the status is pending, this is the only thing it will do. Because those are the, anything you put in the bracket, those are the only thing it will do there. And if the status is banned, this is the only thing it will do. But if none of them is matching, then it's going to fall under the switch. And going back to the page, you see that I still have the same value like that. But now if I go to this and I put active there, so save, go to the page, you see that it's showing user is active. So for the switch, it's really useful when your variable is having multiple value and you want to display different things based on those value. Those value you are checking equality. So this one is only useful when you are checking equality, checking whether status is equal to this or is checking whether status is equal to this. If you are using any other condition that is not equality like this, then you have to be using this method. You have to be using this method. Maybe you are checking whether it's greater than or it's less than and so forth like that. This is the method you are going to be using because switch cannot do equality. It can only do switch cannot do anything apart from equality. So it's only check whether the status is equal to this or is equal to this or equal to this, not greater than, less than. You cannot be using this method like that. So this one is really useful when you have different values and you're not checking whether it is equal to a particular value at a time. When you call that value at a particular time, do this. If it's not, then check another value and so forth like that. So that's how this thing works in Angular. There, do I need to let me comment them out? So let me just bring it out like this, so that it will not be showing some other thing on the screen. So again, let me bring this one up like that. So from here too, let me bring this one up, and at the same time let me bring oh no, I don't need all this one. Let me just leave it like this. So this is new way and this is old way. So let me bring this one up too so that I show on the screen. And going back to the page, as you can see, you are going to see each one of them. So for the old way, for the new way, see that it's displaying the same thing, but here we are doing it in the old way and here we are doing it in the new way. The same thing too for the switch. We are doing it in the new way comparing to old way. So I'm just going to let me just copy this and let me go to all the P so that it can different too on the page. So let me just apply the class to them and let the AI complete the remaining one for me. This way I love to aim to work. Yeah, so it make it easier to work with like that. So the same thing here too. So AI is really fast when it needs to bootstrap your text. So again, like that. So let me go to the next one. So this one too. Oh yeah, complete it for me. So this is white and this is this. So save so that we can have different colors on the screen like that. So when it is this, when it is that, and again now if it is false, we are going to see, so you can see some stuff are not showing on the screen because the condition is true. Its login is true. But now if I go back there, as you can see, the UI will be different from what I had before. The same thing here too. If I use pending, the UI down here is going to be different because the value under pending are this. So the blue is what is going to come aside like that. And if it is banned, then it's going to be red that we're supposed to be seeing on the screen, as you can see. So you can display different elements and change your styling based on whatever you want to do on the page, based on the condition here. So we have the switch, we have the if, and so forth like that. So all the thing that I just worked on now, so I'm not just going to give it like this so that it will be easier to work with. So what I will just do inside my components here, I'm going to create a new component. So open the integrated terminal from here. Then I'm going to do ng generate this one. What am I generating? I'm generating control conditional. So let me call it conditional statement like this. So generate the component. So here I should have the component inside this place. So open it, open the TS file. So I will copy everything that I have here because I don't want to be putting them directly here. So I'm just going to put it at this side. Then copy everything that I have here, cut everything that I have here, then move it under this side. So cut everything so that I'll be able to disable them easily later on. There again too, the import that I have here, I don't need it, so we don't need this common inside this place. I only need it at this side, and that's why it's the reason why it's complaining. As you can see, all this ng switch, you can't use them until you import it. So what I just need to do is this. Import them, save everything, go back to the page. I shouldn't see anything again on the page, so the page should be blank. So in order for this thing to work now, so inside our lesson 2, we just need to call our component, which is this app conditional statement. And the reason I'm doing is that it will be easier for me to just comment the entire stuff out easily like that, because I'm going to the next one, which is loop there. So now going back to the screen, as you can see, everything is back. And if I don't need it, I just need to comment it out and it will be easier for me to work with. And that's the same thing I'm doing inside this app here. So any one of them you need, you just comment, you remove the comment, and the one you don't need, you comment it out. If it's lesson one that I want to see, then uncomment the lesson one, save it and import it. And once it's done, then it's going to work there like that. So yeah, save this one. This is going to complain because I'm not using this my conditional statement. So let me just save it like this. So what next? I need to create another one. So ngg generate. This is going to be loop control flow like this. So loop control flow. So now I've created another one there. So let me go to the component. So conditional one, go to the loop. Let me open the loop at this side for the TS files, and for the HTML files, it's supposed to be here. Let me remove it from this side. So now we need to use it inside lesson 2. So how do we use it? We just need to come here, then app loop control flow like this. So I'm just making for this thing to be easier to work with. So instead of putting everything inside this file, so any one of them you want to focus on at a particular time, you just go to its own component and it will be easier, not packing everything together. So let me save this one and go to the screen. We should see loop control works. So I'm going to be working under this side. So let me create a div. Inside this div, I'm going to use hscreen, which is just to make sure that the thing cover up the entire screen. So, but let me say minimum. This is just CSS stuff that we'll be talking about later on when you know about Angular in general. So W field P5 like this, then BG red, let me use 400. So save, you see the entire page should be red. So because I've covered the entire screen like that. Then inside this place, we want to talk about the loop in Angular. So what is loop? First of all, you need to understand loop in JavaScript. Loops allows us to iterate multiple items at the same time, or go through a list of items, then based on each item you have inside your based on each value that you have inside those list of items, you can render them on the page. And this is what I'm trying to talk about here. For example, here, imagine we have a list here. So let me bring the list. Let me quickly bring the list. Imagine we have a list of apples. So we have a list of fruits. So we have a list of fruits. Then on the page, I want to do something like this on the page. I want to have UL, I want to have LI, and LI is going to be for each one of them. So I want to have apple. So after apple, I want to have the banana, which is the second item that we have there, like that. And for the third one, we have the mango. So you can see I have this item. Or again too, I have users. So these users, I have Coyote like this. I have Felix. I have Isaac, and I have Chidera like this. What I want to do on the screen is that each one of these items now, I want to render them. So UL, I have LI. So here I'm going to have Coyote like this, and I'm going to have Felix like this because that's the second item. Then I'm going to have Isaac, and the third one I'm going to have Chidera. But now imagine this list that we have here is 20 or is 40 or is 80. Are you not going to be typing them one by one yourself like this? No. We already have the list, or we already fetched the list from the backend. The backend already give us the list, like 20 lists of users, 30 lists of users, and so forth like that. So this user now, we now want to display them on the screen. So how do we do it? We can talk to Angular to go through all the lists one by one and generate the LI for each one of them, and that's where the loop comes in. With this now, saving it, go to the screen, we are going to have it, but this is not what I want. I want to be able to loop through this item one by one and make the list that I want to show on the screen there like that. So how do we do it? We need to use the loop. So we have the old way. So h1, let me say h1 loop control structures like this in Angular. So H2, we have the old way, which is going to be this ng4. This is what you use, like that, H2, and we have the new way, which is this 4, like that. So how do we use them? So what we need to do now, in order for us to display that stuff, so what we just need to do, first of all, we need to generate our, because this one we are not creating a new UL. What we want to create, as you can see, is just one UL we have. But inside that UL, we have multiple li that is corresponding to the fruit or corresponding to the users that we have here. So how do we do it here? So we need to use our li. Then inside this li, we need to use our ng4 like this. But in order for it to work, you need to have the common modules. In order for it to work, you can import common modules so that you'll be able to use ng4, ngIf, ngSwitch. All of them, they are part of the common module. Or if you are just looking for 4 directly, you can just do ng4 directly like this. But I'm just going to use common modules so that in case I want to use any one of them, it will be available for me. So here now, we need to use this ng4. So inside this ng4, what you need to do is to do let, then the name of your variable. So your variable name, which is what you are going to be using later on. So your variable name. So of, then the list that you want to work with. So list that you want to work with, like that, which can be this user of fruit. So the list you want to work with is this user of fruit. Why this your variable is what you're going to be using to receive each one of them later on. So your variable, the first time it will be apple, your variable the second time it will be banana, your variable the next time it will be mango, and so forth like that, depending on the number of items you have there. If it is the user that you're using for this list that you want to work with, then your variable will be Kayode the first time, the second time it will be Felix, the third time, and so forth like that, depending on the number of items you have there. And inside this place now, you now have access to use your variable by using your variable inside the bind. Don't forget, in order for it to display on the screen, you need to use the template like that. But this is not what I want. This is just a sample of what you are going to be doing. So let me quickly do it. So here we are going to have ng4 like this. So what I want to do is let, then I'm going to call it user. So I'm doing it for that user, then of users. So I'm the one that created this variable. Variable is not coming from anywhere. I'm the one that created. So I can use X, I can use Y, but all I told you, always use a descriptive name for the stuff there. So what I'll do is that for each one of the item here, give me each one of them as this user. So the first time Angular goes through the list there, so user is going to be Kayode. The second time is going to be Felix. The third time is going to be Isaac. The fourth time is going to be Chidera. I need to generate li for each one of them because we are using the 4. Anyway, using this 4, it will generate that element until it's done with the number of items you have in the list. And here you can do whatever you want to do with it. Since it's just text, so here I'm just using user like that. But if it is object, you might need to use some dot or this in on it. Or even I want to convert it to uppercase, I can just do to uppercase like this. So like that. So which means everything I have here, by the time you get to the screen, is the uppercase that is going to show like that. And once I save this code, go to the screen. As you can see, we have this Kayode, Felix, Isaac, Chidera here. And then later on now, if I add another item to the list, maybe like Toib now, save, go to the screen, you see that I don't need to change my HTML code. It will be here automatically because we are talking about the user. And if it is fruit too, it doesn't matter there. So save, go to the screen, you'll see that what we're going to be having is apple, banana, and mango because this is the list. So whatever you put here is the list you are working with, and whatever you put here is the variable you want to use. So as you can see that it's still working even though I call it user and I'm dealing with fruit. So it will still work like that. And if I want to do the fruit separately too, so I can just do li again to another li. From there we have ng4 like this. So we're going to have the item, which whatever you want can call it, you can call it item, and down here to save it, and I can go there. You see that it will be up. There is not a must that I create this UL. If I want, after the stuff is done displaying all the user, then follow it by the list of apples. So save it, and you see that after it's done displaying all the user, then it generates another set of li for the fruit. So with this, it allows you to go through your array of items one by one and do something based on each item you have there. But this is old way, which is something we are not going to be doing like that. So we are not going to be using our old way. What we're going to be using is the new way. Let me comment this in out there like that, so that let me do it in this way, so that everything is no, supposed to remove the comments, like this. So comment it out and let us go to the new way. So for the new way, there is something I skip here, because when you are dealing with the loop, Angular actually give us something known as when you are dealing with the loop, Angular actually give us something known as this track by, that you can use to talk to Angular that this thing, because later on when you have a lot of UI that you are putting on the screen, anytime that list change, so anytime this list change, Angular have to recreate everything again. But imagine each one of the items you are putting on the screen, it's really large and it takes time for Angular to build them. It's really nice for you to talk to Angular that this list, so this particular one is not changing. I only add item to the end of the list. For example, I'm only adding James to the end. Just because I add James to the end doesn't mean all this one Angular should recreate them again. They're already there. The only thing I'm just doing to add James at the end. So the only thing Angular is supposed to do is to maintain every element that has been created for this one before and just create the new one for James, not recreating all this one again. And that's where this track by comes in. But most of the time you will not see it in our code, but it's always good that you use it when you are working with this old method ng. So you can use it to tell you that, okay, this item or this particular one is not what is changing. Based on that, Angular knows that it is not supposed to recreate that element again, because that element is already present on the screen. There is no need for it to create. So you can give it the ID. So this track by ID is something that you are going to create in your TS file. This is how we do it in the old way, which is really long, but it's kind of as simple when you're working with the new way there, and it's required with the new way. You need that track when you're dealing with the new way. So for the new way, we have this at 4. Then the same thing, you are going to have your variable. So let your variable name, then you have of your list items like this. So whatever list you want to, then after that you have this colon. Then the next thing is this track. This track must always be there. Then what are you tracking? You talk to the Angular that from this your list or this variable here, there is something that is not changing there. So the right now is just the item. As you can see, each one of them are separate there. So what we can just do here is that Angular should just track that same variable name. That means when we add a new item to the list, if that text is not changing at all, Angular is not going to recreate it again. It will just reuse whatever you already have on the screen there like that. Just know that you are always going to be putting this track, and whatever you're using under the track must be something that is unique, that is coming from each item. Right now it is string. That's why I'm just using that same text as track by. But later on, if this thing is object, because you can have users object like this, it can be object later on. And when you have object, as you can see here now, it's not just the name. It have both the name and the age. So you need to talk to Angular that is only age or is only name that is unique or that you want to display. So when you are dealing with object like this, it have the way we work with them, which I'm going to show soon there. But let's work with the simple value first like that. So I'm going to comment this one out and just go to this 4. So what I want to do, let user, then of users, because that's my list that I want to work with. Then track, what am I tracking? I'm tracking user because it's just the text there like that. And what am I doing? I'm doing this my li. But before that, let's put our ul first, because all your li should always be inside ul. So that's the HTML part. So all the li should always be inside ul. The same thing too is what you are going to be doing this side like that. So sorry, let me remove this one because it's Angular will create the variable for us automatically like that. So here, what we just need to do, so this is my variable. I can call it x, y, or z, but always use a descriptive name. And what it's going to do here is that it's going to do the same thing as what we have up here. So if I save the code, once this code is saved, and going to the screen, you see that under the new way, I have the same thing. So under the new way, I have the same thing as what I have under the old way. Let me bring the old way back so that both of them are showing. And let me comment out this one because it's not valid. It's just showcasing what you need to do at that place there like that. So going back to the screen, as you can see, under the old way, the same thing we are displaying is the same thing as what we are showing for this one. And if I want to work with the fruits too, like that, so what I just need to do, come down here again, I will just do 4, then I will have the fruits. So fruits of fruits like this. Then again, this one is just normal text that is there too, so we can just track the fruit and at the same time we'll print it out. So this is the old way. This is how you are going to do it in the old way, and this is how you are going to do it in the new way. So save, go to the screen. As you can see, everything I have under the old way is still the same data that I have under the new way, but you should always do it in this way. You should always do it this way. This one has been duplicated. You should never be using this ng4 again there like that. But I'm just showing you in case you are saying it in the code. So this is how it's going to be, and this is how this one will be. It goes more than this, which is something I will be using later on there like that. For example, there is some other thing we can receive from your this thing here. But what if you want to work with objects? So what if you want to work with objects? So we can do at 4. Then we have this u, which is what I'm calling the user of or I can just say user like this. This is another this thing of user objects like this. But again, you cannot just come here and say track user like this, because this object is not unique. You shouldn't be doing it in this way. What you should do is to pick item from that your object that you have. So as you can see, there are 2 things here. So what is unique here is the name. So where we can just use the dot. No object, when you want to have access to it, anything inside it. So the first time user will be this entire object here. The second time it will be the entire object. So this user, the first time it will be having access to name and age, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm using the name inside that object as our track, so that when we add a new item later on to this list, Angular knows that it has not changed because the value is still the same. The last one is what is going to create, not the entire stuff like that. Again, what I want to display here, what I want to display is the user dot name like this, and in front of it I want to display the user dot age. Don't forget, this one is object. It's not just you can't just display the user on the screen. You can't just display object like this. Angular will complain because you cannot display object on the screen. So you have to extract out what you need. The only thing you can display is simple type like text, string, and that's what we are doing here. So anytime it look through it, so it will give us the name, put this arrow in front of it, or I can just do it as a arrow right, no, not right, it will just be left arrow like that. So save, and by the time you get to the screen, go down. As you can see, so Kayode now, it have age 23, Felix, it have 22, Isaac is 21, Chidera is 20, and this one is 19, and this one is 18 like that. So depending on the object you are working with, so it might not be this exact value, but you need to extract out the details you need from the objects there like that. And this is how you will work with the for loop. So for the old way, you are going to be using ng4, and for the new way, you are going to be using this at 4 like that. And again, the track is needed. You must track it by something. Another thing you can use to track, maybe you don't have any value, is to use the index. What if you want to get the index of each one of the items? So this is the index 0, this is index 1, and so forth like that. Each item in the list, they come with index that I've talked about before. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So what if you want to get that index? Angular actually give us a way. So here you can receive the index by just using let I to be equals to whatever the index are there. So this index is what you are going to be having, or instead of you just doing let like this, you can use the index directly from here. So what we can just do is to do something like this. So inside this place, you can do at index like that. Don't forget, when we are dealing with our this thing that time under the first component, when we are dealing with event binding, you know, Angular gave us at $event. So when you are dealing with for loop, Angular give you this at index, which correspond to index of each items in the list. So you can do the same thing too in the old way. So to do it in the old way, you are going to do let in I. So that one did not have dollar when you are dealing with old way. So you don't put dollar there when you are dealing with the old way. But when you are dealing with the new way, to get the index, just you have access to it directly in your loop, not outside. You only have access to it inside this bracket and inside this curly brace like that. And once you save, go back to the screen. As you can see now, so the first item, this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to the end like that. But I don't want to show the index, I want to show the position. So we just need to add 1. So what that means, the first one will be 0 plus 1, that's 1. The next one will be 1 plus 1, that's 2, and so forth like that. And you see now we have the value, but there is no space in between them. Let me put a space, and now we have the list. The same thing too, as you can see, is happening with the old way too. So for the old way, to get the index, you are going to set the variable first. So your index, you are going to get it first so that you will be able to use it. If you want, you can call it index too like this, but it will always rename it to, you always see I in this way. That's what we normally use, but you can rename it to anything you want. And let me add 1 to that one too. And as you can see, it's going to be there. So this is how to receive the index. Again too, it's giving us another thing, which is for us to check whether it's the last item or is the first item. If you need them, you can always get them. So as you can see, for the new way, so we have the index. To get it with the new way, you have to put dollar with them. So the dollar have to be there with the new way. But with the old way, you have to create the variable from here. So let last is going to be, or let's just say L is going to be last. So this one will give you the last item. So it will tell you whether it is last or not in the list. So if it is last, it will be true. If it is not, then it will be false. Let me just, this one should be F so that we don't miss them. So what I will just do is F, and you can name it anything you want, but I'm using F and L. And as you can see, it will tell you whether it's the last or is the first. So if it is, you can see the first thing, if it is first, this one will be true. If it is last, it will be true. But here, as you can see, it is first. That's why it is true. But here now it's not last. It's not first. That's why it's first. This one too is not first. It's not first. It's not first, and it's not first. So all of them will be first. The only one that will be true is because this is the only one that is the first in the list. And you can use this to apply some styling later on. For example, here now, if I want to apply some styling on my li, what I can just do here is to do some class.text red 200 like this is going to be L. So when it is the last item, that's when the text is going to be red. Let me use another color. It's going to be green, or it's going to be blue like this. So when it is the last, it's going to be blue. This 200 is too, let me use a darker color, so 600. And let me go to, can you see? So it's only the last one that is going to show blue color. The same thing too, if I want to apply some style for the, no, I'm using binding now. So text is red 600. So if it is the first, no, it can't be red because the background too is red. So it should be green. So if it is, this one will return. So last, Angular will give you whether it's false or true. So in order for you to be able to use them, you need to call them in this way. You need to create a variable for them. And the variable I'm creating, I'm calling it L, which is the same thing as what Angular is giving us at last. This false, that and false, they are coming from Angular. Anytime you are dealing with this ng4. The same thing too can be done here with this. So when you want to do it, instead of creating the variable, you can use all these. We don't need to be doing it here. I don't like to do it here with Angular. You can use them directly at this side. So you can just do last like this, and at the same time you can do first directly. So it makes it easier. You don't need to create a variable for them first before you start using it. Unlike this one that you have to create a variable before you can access them. But with the new way, just append dollar with it, it will give us access to them like that. So save, go back to the screen. You see that when it is the first item, it will be green. When it is the last item, it will be blue. And as you can see, the new way too. So for the new way, we have the same thing. Just that the way we are representing it is what is different there like that. And this is all about the control structure for now. And that's what you're always going to be using later on to loop through the list of items you have and display them on the screen if it is multiple items. So if it is multiple items and you need to do the same thing again and again, or generate the same element for each one of them, or generate the same component for each one of them, you are going to be using the for loop, the new way or the old way, there like that. Or if it's just normal items that you are working with and you want to conditionally render it on the screen, you are going to be using the conditional statement the new way or the old way by using the ng if, or by using this at if and at else if you want to do something, or you can use ng switch, which allows you to check equality for multiple values of that variable. You can see it's the same variable that I'm testing with. So this thing is testing against status, not another variable. But if you need to test multiple variables separately that is not status, you can use this one. So this one doesn't need to be this. So again, too, here instead of being doing whether it is banned, so I can just say if it is not logged in. So if it's not logged in like this, as you can see, I can mix multiple conditions together. It doesn't need to be of the same condition like that. But when you're dealing with switch, it's the same. It's one variable you are dealing with and you are comparing it against a single or multiple values like this. So you'll be using switch anytime you are comparing against one variable, or you are using one variable to compare against multiple values like that. So, and you are checking equality, and you are going to be using this method here if the condition can be different or it's still the same thing. So this one is versatile, it can do both, but this one can only do one like that. And when you need to loop through the list, you are going to be using this in there like that. You are going to be using the loop that we've talked about. So I'm going to add assignments into this stuff. I'm going to add an assignment into it that you now work on there like that. So this is going to be all for this class. This is going to be all for the class. Let me stop the recording, and I think it's really much already. So where's my screen? Where's my other screen? So stop.